Right, to continue our coverage of that Shaun Abrahams story, John Clarke, an activist, is one of those who's been calling for Shaun Abrahams to withdraw charges against Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, and he's actually thinking of having the NDPP reported. He's lodged a complaint with the Public Protector saying that Abrahams is guilty of maladministration, the misuse of official resources and abuse of authority. Let's talk to social worker and activist John Clarke in studio with us this afternoon. John, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Jim.
I want to start off with asking exactly what action you're hoping the Public Protector will take against Shaun Abrahams.
Well, maybe just to explain, social workers' first obligation is to challenge social injustice, and we do so on the basis of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Over my career, the last number of years, particularly the last 10 years, I've been working with a rural community affected by mining on the Wild Coast, by Sanral's plans to kind of try and build a whole new toll road there. And I've found the Constitution an invaluable resource for social workers because it sets out the values and principles against which you can engage with people on a basis of confrontation, but without necessarily going into an adversarial legal disputation process. So what I'm concerned about is that earlier this year, one of my clients was shot and killed. We are still waiting for a proper police investigation for arrests to be made. And I've been chafing around this factor about this destabilization that's happening in the community. And when I was watching the Public Protector interviews, I was horrified to hear that Willie Hofmeyr had to admit the fact that he was spending only 3 hours a day in useful work. He was basically a senior public prosecutor, a senior official, doing bored stiff out of his mind whilst we had the situation in the Wild Coast and the rest of South Africa where crime is a major problem. And Vinny's speciality is crime fighting. And I just thought it was shocking. And in fact, so did the parliamentary committee that were interviewing him. So I thought, in looking at the Constitution, and I carry one in my bag, and Section 195 talks about the necessity under Section 195 that state administration must be governed by certain principles, including the effective use of human resources. So I thought that, and I lodged a complaint. I didn't know Willie. I contacted him. I said, is this true? Do you mind me doing this? And he said, by all means, go ahead. And that thing built a bit of momentum. And I lodged the complaint last month, and in August, and when I saw this latest round of things, I thought, it's the new Public Protector now, let's give her a fair shot, and let me kind of remind her of this complaint, because I also complained to the MPA itself. I phoned in the hotline and I said, this is not in compliance with the Constitution.
Did you get any response from that?
I didn't get any response from them, and that's why I'm now escalating it and giving Advocate Busiswe Mkhwebane the opportunity to get off on the right foot, because as a social worker, and I emphasize, not political, not personal, as a social worker, I cannot do my job unless the rule of law applies and unless there's legitimacy in the pivotal institution of state, which is a national prosecuting authority. And you see what's now happening, what Corin's described, just as a travesty of constitutional values and principles, and I believe that the Public Protector must now investigate that, hold him to account, and then issue some sort of finding, because I think and then we'll hopefully bring settlement and peace back into the system.
Let me just ask you this. A lot of legal analysts are looking at this and saying, whatever people feel about Shaun Abrahams' conduct, perhaps the press conference today demonstrates better than anything else that there are checks and balances within the NPA. So one prosecutor may feel that he has a case, but then it goes through a process of review, and after that process of review, the NDPP can still decide this is not an appropriate case.
Well, I would love to have asked him, did he ask Willie Hofmeyr what he thought about this? I can guarantee you he didn't. And here is somebody who's politically very experienced, who has shown himself impartial in terms of his fact that he withdrew from ANC activities when he realized he had to perform his job, without prejudice, fear, or favor. It's that sort, and that experience has now just been disregarded. So that's what I want to say. Adv Shaun Abrahams new in the job. I don't expect him to perform perfectly, but he's got experience there. For goodness sake, use it. And it's not to say that I necessarily always agree with what William Hofmeyr said. It's the fact that I want a system whereby our constitution, our institutions of state are governed with that sort of requisite impartiality and free of prejudice, because it's so obvious, the elephant in the room is the fact that we have certain ministers who have not been compliant or even committed to their oath of office to uphold the Constitution.
What would you like to see? What would you like to see happen? What would you like to see the public protector do about this, John?
Well, I'd like her to basically do an impartial investigation, interview me, bring the whole thing out in the open, and stay within her powers. Because, the interesting thing, Trudy Madonsela once told me when I asked her any advice she had for her successor, she says, be a coward. In other words, just stay within your powers. As a social worker, I don't have the powers to investigate, to subpoena, to call them to account. But as a social worker, I have the responsibility to act on my professional duty to the most vulnerable and disadvantaged, and to call our political leadership as well, not just Shaun Abrahams, the President, Minister Zwane. I've wrote to him a month ago about the fact of the Wild Coast story, and I've asked him, please, you must extend that moratorium, not from 18 months to but to 50 years. We need time for the wounds to heal. We need time for this country to find its unity and cohesion again. We need time for us to find our constitutional principles again and find our way out of this desert that we are caught in with the abuse of state power. And hopefully the new public protector will do that, and we'll begin to see society getting its act together again.
John Clarke, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us. He is a social worker and activist.